In Mark chapter 14, beginning with the first verse, we read, "It was now 2 days before the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to arrest him by stealth and kill him. For they said, 'Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar from the people.'" Appreciate what we just read. The Jewish people's foremost religious authorities and leaders there in the city of Jerusalem want to kill Jesus. After all the things that we've seen in Mark's gospel to help us know who Jesus is as God's Son, to help us love him, as we see the great power of God that he worked to free people from oppression by demons, to heal them of disease, the way that he so compassionately treated people, the authoritative things that he taught, they've seen all of the same evidence that we've seen across Mark's gospel. Yet they've concluded that they have to get Jesus out of the way. Just prior to this, as Jesus spent several days in the temple there in Jerusalem in the week leading up to this, as he taught, he had all of these crowds that were attracted to him, all of these people who were learning from him and loving him, much as we have as we've gone through this gospel account. And even though these same authority figures tried every which way to trip Jesus up, to expose him as a fraud, to cause him to say something that would lose the esteem of the people, they failed. He masterfully handed everything that they threw at him, and his popularity only grew. So now they've decided all that's left is to arrest him and to kill him, and they need to do it quickly because the Passover's coming. And if ever there were a time for the Jewish people to be in an uproar, it was the Passover. Because in a lot of ways, that holiday, their most important holiday, was a time that was very much inclined to be a time for an uproar because it was like Jewish Independence Day. It was a 1400-year-old festival whose roots were when the people of Israel first were freed from slavery in Egypt, when God worked through Moses to lead them out of 10 plagues devastating the land of Egypt, the final one causing the death of the firstborn in every house except the houses of the people of Israel, where the blood of the sacrificial Passover lamb marked out their doorways so that the destroyer passed over. When Egypt finally said, "All right, get out of here, you're free," and the people rushed out so quickly that they couldn't even wait for their bread to rise, so they have unleavened bread, the other part of the feast that was mentioned there. But because of those overtones of liberation and freedom from slavery, in the time of Jesus, that particular festival being held in Jerusalem made the city something of a powder keg because everybody was ready to be freed from the current rulers, the Roman Empire. Rome knew this too. So they sent their forces. The Roman regional governor would all descend on Jerusalem during this time to keep the order, to keep the peace, to try to keep there from being a riot, from there being an uproar. So the Jewish leaders have seen the evidence about Jesus, and they've decided he needs to die. But as so often is the case with the wicked things people do, they want to try to do it quietly. They want to try to do it secretly. They want to try to do it in such a way that they're not exposed to any scrutiny. Ironically, they will get the opportunity to kill Jesus. And as we see that story told, part of how it'll be accomplished will actually be through an uproar. The very uproar that here they wanted to avoid. Yet even as all of those dark days play out, even as Jesus, who we've received so many reasons to love as we've come to know him, suffers terribly, dying in the most brutal, excruciating fashion, we'll get constant reminders in the events leading up to his death that compose what's left here in Mark's gospel account, in the events of his death itself, and especially in the events that follow, that it wasn't actually the plans of the Jewish leaders that drove everything forward. That even in all of that, God still reigned. He had a purpose, and it would absolutely lead to true freedom for those who truly know and love Jesus.